Okay, so in this video we're gonna work on the rocks. So let's go File, Open, and then let's go to our assets, and then under the rock folder here you can see rock 1. So let's open this. Okay, so we have these different rock types. It's basically one of them higher poly and then lower poly. So low poly, mid, and then high. And then let's go and start working on the texturing them. So let's select all of them. Let's assign new material. And then let's click on Arnold. Arnold AI standard surface will do. And then AI, and then let's delete this and then call it rock. They all use the same texture, so that will be really easy for us. Let's click on the color. And then let's go into our source images. And then rock textures, and then let's select the diffuse. Okay, just give it a second to load. Okay, so now we have all this diffuse. And then let's go back to the shader, and then let's reduce the spec. We don't want it to be too much, and increase the roughness. Okay, that should be good. And then let's go under the geometry under the bump mapping, and let's assign the bump map for it. So let's click on File, and then bump map, we change it to tangent space normals. And then let's select the image, and we select the normal map here. And then let's change it. Once it's load the color space, you can't change it, but it should be set up correctly here. Okay, so we have now everything is all good. So now the bump is applied. We can reduce the bump intensity by going here, the bump depth. We can go 0.1. It can influence a bit, but you can leave it as it is as well. It's no problem. And then we need to think about which rock we need to import. So this one is 9,340 faces, and then the lower one, and then the mid one is 18. So since we're gonna be using like manually scattering them, we don't need to use the really high poly. We could use the mid one and the low poly, those two. So we can for now just delete the high poly, and just keep those guys in, and they textured correctly, so we're good to go. So let's save, and then let's go back to our scene, and the scenes 3D forest. Okay, so now we are in our scene, and then what we're gonna do now, let's start importing these new rocks. So first we can keep everything here. Let's keep everything, it's fine. We don't need to hide anything, because we want to work with them while we can see everything, because we want to make sure we place the rocks in the places that we can actually see. Okay, so we imported the rocks. Let's make sure we find them under the outliner. There they are. And then let's press F so we can see them. Okay, now they are inside somewhere in a shrub. Let's press 4. You can see them. Okay, there they are. So let's scale. We want the rocks to be a little bit big. And then as I mentioned, we're gonna be manually changing and putting these rocks around. So now they are still a little bit small, so let's scale them, because these rocks, they could be really big. So that's a good thing. Now we can change that as much as we like. So this is the low poly now, and we need to select this high poly one, unless I just want to select both of them and then group them, and then call this rocks group. So this way we can actually just make sure everything in one group, so we can easily access it. Okay, so let's select the mid one, and then let's go to the scene here at the beginning of our camera. Let's show up the trees now. Okay, so let's select the mid poly again, and then we can see here there's a gap. So let's just add the rock in here. So I'm just holding, press W, and then with the V, so I can snap it into the using the vertices. So let's move it around. Let's move it, and then let's lower it until like touch the ground. Something like this should work, and then let's rotate it around. This is basically like a manually now placing these rocks. You could scatter them if you want, but since they're kind of a bit heavy, and also I don't want to have like too much random rocks like everywhere. Want to make sure we're placing things in a way that it feels more natural. So you know, since we did everything using mesh scattering, we can do this rocks here manually. So let's hold on W, and then let's change the orientation, so this way we can move it much easier. Something like this will be good. And let's move the camera around just to see. Okay, so it's inside the grass, so we want to make sure the grass, it doesn't really go through the rock. This is something we need to keep in mind when we're placing these. That's why it's easier to place them manually. Okay, so this rock now looks pretty good. And then let's move the camera around, so you can see our scene is pretty dense already with trees. So we're gonna like think about placements of these rocks, you know, like in a way that makes sense. So maybe here there is a gap here, so we can like select the low poly. Now we can just work with low poly, and then while holding V, I just snap it somewhere around here. You see, so this should be good here. And then let's go to perspective. Let's press F so we can frame on it. And then let's see, we can increase the size of this. We can cheat pretty good amount. So let's see, let's pick an angle we can see the rock, like this one, and then let's just scale it up and let's rotate it around, you know, something like this. And then maybe let's just scale it up a little bit more. I want to make sure we don't start going too much into the grass and the other vegetation, so we want to keep things feels more natural. So that's pretty good. So let's go to our scene here and then see how it looks like. So it looks fine. Maybe we can, since I'm looking at it from the camera view, let's maybe rotate it this way a bit more, and then let's go to our viewport in the perspective and make sure working from all angles. So this looks pretty good. And then maybe let's duplicate this and then let's snap it here, and this side, let's snap it here. Okay, so this is good roughly, you know, and then let's frame on it. Okay, so roughly is pretty good. So let's just scale it down a little bit, you know, and then rotate it, press E, then just rotate it somewhere like this, and maybe rotate it around this way. So this should be good for now. Yeah, we're trying to make it look as like random as possible. So we can also, let's see, we can maybe add another rock like down here. So let's duplicate this one and then let's snap it here. So maybe there is some vegetation, but that's okay. Let's do the same thing, snap there. We can always scale it down if it's too vegetational area. Let's see. So this is like in the middle of these bushes. Let's zoom out a bit. So we can definitely move it in here. It seems there's a room. Let's push it this way as well, and then let's also rotate it around and push this way and move it this way, something like this. Let's also verify from the from the camera view that this is working. So this is fine. It's not all of it showing, but that's okay. We don't have to have everything like completely visible. And let's maybe add another one. Let's duplicate it and then add one here, you know. We don't have to always go to the perspective and check. We can just you know, manually just move it and like eyeball it basically. So let's do this with this one, and then let's duplicate it and then let's snap one here. Okay, something like this, and then let's move it and push it, and let's rotate it as well. and maybe let's push it up to the side, something like this, and then let's duplicate it again, and then let's snap it here. Okay, so let's push it down, let's move it down, and then move it this way. And then for this one, let's go to the viewport, the perspective I mean, and then let's see where it is. Let's hold W and then change it to world, the orientation, so this way, you know, we can move it. You know, something like this, that should do the job. We can rotate it a little bit. You know, I want to make sure they all unique and they look you know, nice and like natural. We just, so always we want to make sure we move them around and then we scale them, you know. So let's go back to our camera view. Okay, so that looks good. So we have these variation now toward the end, and then let's see, we can grab like some rock, maybe let's duplicate it, and then maybe we can place one here. Let's move it. Okay, so we snapped it around here. Okay, let's go back to the perspective. Okay, so now let's work on it, and then let's move it here, and let's lower it down. Then maybe we can scale this down as well. We want to make sure there's like a nice variety. And then let's duplicate it again, and let's move it. Maybe let's see, let's make sure we're moving it around here, and then let's rotate it as well, something like that. And we could maybe scale it a little bit more, so this way, just make sure it looks really different. Okay, so this is good. Let's go back. So we have these rocks now, and then let's see. So this is what we have so far. We want to be like always there's some kind of rock or something we seeing. So we see here there's a gap at the bottom. So let's duplicate this rock, and then again let's snap it here, something like this, and then let's move it. Let's move it this way, then we can lower it down, something like this, and then let's duplicate it again, and then maybe add it here. Let's just hold V and then snap it somewhere around here. Just, you know, basically we're trying to add more life into our scene. Let's see, and then maybe we can scale it down, something like this. You know, not every rock have to be really big. And then we can maybe duplicate it one more time and add one here. Let's just move it. Sometimes it takes time for Maya to snap. So let's just move it this way, and then move it up toward here, and then maybe scale it a little bit, and then maybe just rotate it, something like that. It's okay if it's crashing a little bit with some of the grass. We can always double check, but you know, it's not gonna be a big problem since the camera will be passing pretty fast. So here we don't have any crashing, so that's pretty good. Let's duplicate it one more time, since we have here some more stuff to add. So this way, let's rotate it, and then let's move it this way, and then maybe rotate it up a little bit, something like this. This should be good. Let's move it towards, so they're touching each other. Okay, so we have that, and let's keep scrolling back. So let's duplicate again another one, and let's add it in here, and let's snap it. Let's move it with the X, move it this way, and you can see it here, and then let's maybe lower it down a little bit, and let's see, let's scroll down. Here we have here a gap, so let's duplicate it again, and then let's add. So we're basically working just for the camera view here. You know, we're trying to just work with what the camera sees exactly in our shot, and we're not trying to add any like extra rocks or anything. You know, like just basically filling up some of these gaps that the grass and flowers didn't fill. So this will be pretty good. Yeah, so let's keep going and let's go back. So here it's pretty dense already, but let's duplicate it, and then let's add here. There's a opportunity to add rock around this area, so let's just snap it. Okay, let's see what's the closest. So this is the closest. Then we can move it this way and this way, and then I guess we can move it up. Okay, so we're getting it close. We're trying to make this area as like crowded as possible, but without doing too much. So this is good. And then let's go back. Let's see, so this is the tree is gonna be covering good amount. And then let's also duplicate that rock and then snap one here. Get like close. Okay, so let's push it here. And then we can scale it down much more. And then let's rotate it this way and then rotate it. You know, just basically rotate it around. Just to make it look like more natural. Maybe this is too much. Let's turn it the other side. The other side looks better. Let's see, something like this could be good. Then let's duplicate it one more time, and then let's add one here. Let's move it here, because now it's the beginning of the shot, so we can really experiment with adding lots of variation of things. And then let's just scale it down. And then let's rotate it as well, something like this. So I think we good. So if we go through, let's go back a little bit here. Okay, maybe let's select this one and then let's duplicate it one more time, and then let's just add one here. Okay, so let's lower it down. Maybe something like this, that would be good. And then let's deselect everything. Now it's crowded, so it's pretty tough, but okay. And then now if we go through the camera, we can see there's always like some kind of rocks showing up in our scene, so that's gonna make it really look nice and more natural. So let's save and let's render this frame and see how things looks like for so far. Okay, so it's done rendering, and as you can see, this is what we had like earlier, and then now with the trees it looks nice, and the rocks really adds more realism to our scene. And then you can see here there's some artifacts we'll be working with later to fix if there's any weird things showing up in the leaves. But I really wanna do the grounds like way too soft now, and I wanna increase the bump map on it, so it's just make it look much more nicer. So let's do that right now. So let's change that. So let's save this image. First let's delete all this stuff. Let's save, and then let's go to the hypershade. And then let's locate the ground texture. Before that we can see we have some extra shaders we have, so let's delete that from the flowers and the rocks. So delete unused nodes. Now we cleaned up, and then let's select the ground and then select on input output connections, and then let's go to that let's select the bump map. So this is the bump. No, this is the map itself, so let's go to the bump node, and then now it's set to 1, so let's go maybe like 3. Let's set it to 3, and then let's go to the render view. Let's delete this image, save again, and then let's basically select this section here, because we don't need to delete to render everything. We just need to render this part, and then let's render. Okay, so it's done rendering, and you can see before and after much nicer. So now here original image was just a bit too like smooth, and now here we increased it, the bump map, so let's make it darker and also make it look much more nicer. So it's kind of blend, so everything blend nicely here. So comparing before and after, so now everything blends nicely and feels much more natural. So we could later lower it down a little bit when we start doing the final lighting, but for now it looks pretty good. So yeah, so this way we can keep going. In the next video we're gonna work into the final lighting, just doing the lighting, the final, and then we can also work on the shaders, finalizing them later on. So see you in the next video.